I'm always touching my hair way too much on
Literally.
camera. Oh my God. Every time I'm on Instagram stories, I'm like, and so, as I'm like this. Anyways, well, thank you so much for joining High Vibe Table Talks today. I'm so excited to have Carli on the podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Good. Awesome. I'm really excited to get into our conversation. I think it is so needed in the space of entrepreneurship. But can you first tell the listeners who you are, where you're located, and who you serve?
Yeah, so hello everyone. My name is Carli LeBlanc. I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I am a clinical researcher by day, content creator, marketing strategist by evenings and weekends. I have a content creation agency here in Houston where we help women entrepreneurs batch shoot their social media content in one day. We help them to be able to show up online on socials, having content that actually sells, and just takes the uncertainty and the overwhelm out of creating social media content to market their brands.
Yeah. And I think that's so fitting for our conversation because as entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, we're trying to do all of the things. And
Mm-hmm.
so to batch create is like so important.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as you continue to just add on more roles, as life comes and goes, it gets even more required for you to take that time. So, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So the high level topic we wanted to get into was the fact that you are an entrepreneur, you have this business, this agency that is serving people, and you also have a 9 to 5. So can you
Mhm.
tell us a little bit about what your schedule looks like at the moment?
Craziness.
Yeah. Also as a mom and a runner of a
Yes,
household and all the
yes,
things.
yes. No, my schedule is really insane. So yeah, I have my 9 to 5. And then on top of that, my husband sometimes travels out the country for work. So life has gotten really crazy. But in the mornings, I typically start my day like literally 2 minutes before it's time for me to open my computer. I'm not one of those people that wake up early in the morning and have like, a whole full blown routine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I typically wake up like around 7:50. I'm online at 8. And then after I have like all of my morning meetings is when I get my kid together, take him to school. And then I come back home and really like knock out like a lot of my admin things with my job. I also have my power hour from 12 to 1, like right now, where I shoot content, where I batch shoot my podcast episodes. I may have like a couple of meetings with clients between that time. I really just knock out a lot of things that I can get done in an hour. And then after the 1 o'clock time, I will find myself doing like specific project focused work for my corporate job. And that's where I don't take meetings at all. My computer, everything's on do not disturb. From 1 to 4, and then from 4 to 5 is when I, set my time to wrap up my day, prepare for the next day, and then kind of give myself some time to like reset, breathe before I open my computer and start my job, my business after 5 o'clock. Every now and then I have time to go to the gym, depending on what the workload looks like, if I have any sales calls or anything. And then my husband's the one that picks up my kid from school, so that helps out. But then I'm pretty much, locked into my computer from like 6 o'clock all the way to maybe sometimes 2 a.m. Not even gonna lie. But it really is a grind. And I feel like the key here is just really being able to identify, like, if you're a morning person, if you're a night person, when do you work best? Like I said, I am not a morning person at all. I can stay up to 2 a.m., but I will not be up early in the morning. So I think that really is the key to being able to balance the two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's so much there. And I just want to, like, it does seem like the narrative of entrepreneurship is a couple things that you are like, you're not saying, oh, this is how I should build my business. And the first
Mm-hmm.
thing is like the 5 to 9 before the 9 to 5. And like, you have to
Mm-hmm.
have this solid morning routine and you have to do it in this certain way. And if you
Yeah.
don't meditate in the morning, then you're not, and I think that we have this list in our head of this is what makes you an entrepreneur, like either not having a 9 to 5 or being a morning person or whatever it is, and you're like, no, I am an entrepreneur, I
Mhm.
am a night owl, I am a creative, I do all these things, and I'm going to build the business in the way that suits me and my lifestyle and how I work best.
Absolutely. And I found myself falling into that trap early on, like when I first started, because you would hear all the people talking about like, oh, if you want to run your business, you have to be up at 5 a.m. And I'm like, I'm not getting anything done at 5 a.m. I'm actually looking at the ceiling, like dreading that I'm up at 5 a.m. And
Hmm.
so I think that part of really just being successful as an entrepreneur is figuring out like your peak times of when you can lock in and really focus on what you need to do. So if that's the morning, cool. If it's at nighttime, that's even better. Like just figuring out what works for you and not really much so paying attention to what everyone on the outside is saying.
Hmm. Yeah, and the other thing that I love that you do, because do them in my business too, are power hours. And
Mm-hmm.
like, as like I have ADHD, and so that focus time, and I do virtual co-working, so I'm body doubling, and it's my most effective
Mm-hmm.
time of my week, and I love it so much. But it's another thing that entrepreneurs think, if I just do more, I'll get to where I want to be faster. And it's like I'm really productive during that 2 hours, and
Mm-hmm.
that allows me some breathing room to like not have to get up at 5 a.m. or really sit and be in dinner time with my family or
Mm-hmm.
whatever that looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also feel like, even with you, I know that you're a mom as well. And so sometimes like, I found myself in a place where I felt like every day had to look the same. Like
Hmm.
every day I want to sit down with my family from 6 to 7, and then 7 to 8 I'm gonna do bath time with my kid, and 8 to 9. And I was like, I have to really be realistic with myself. And so like ideally, like am I able to build the business that I want whenever I'm doing that every single day? Chances are is no. And so I really had to come to terms with myself and really just be like, okay, even if you just do that 2 nights out of the week or 3 nights out of the week, that doesn't make you a bad mom. It doesn't make you a absent mom. And
Yeah.
so I challenge anyone that's listening, because I know that there's someone like, okay, well, where do you have time for your family? Like there are certain days, and I know that we'll talk about it, but each day has a theme. And so I'm not every single day from 6 to 2 a.m. on my computer neglecting my family. But there are some days where I'm like, okay, my hubby's home. Like this is the time where, I'm going to be locked in this evening. But maybe tomorrow I'll take over bath routine, or I'll take over dinner, or have someone else to help me to do that. So I really really just wanted to add that in there, because I know someone's going to be like, well, when do you have time for family? I do have time for family. I do.
Yeah. And I think that too, like that is a societal norm that like if you were a man and you were working crazy hours, people would be like, you're such a good dad
Yeah.
providing for your family.
Yeah.
And as soon as it's the mom, it's like, well, how dare you abandon your family? And it's what like I feel like that America Ferrera and the Barbie her monologue where she's like,
Mm-hmm.
support your family, but you have to be home and you have to have a career, but you have to, have a perfect house. And it's like I can't do all of those things, so I have to be at peace with the decision that I'm making for my family. And
Mm-hmm.
if you have a problem with it, that sounds like a you problem.
Exactly, 1000%. And I feel like you build that confidence in standing firm in that as you continue to go along. Because don't get me wrong, at the beginning I felt like a terrible mom. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm taking time away from my kid trying to build this thing. But then like I really had to come to terms and be like, listen, like no one is feeling neglected here. Like this is a you thing, okay?
Yeah.
So yeah, I 1000% agree with that.
Yeah. And so, can you talk to, I mean, the mental side of it too? I think a lot of what we hear is that you're only an entrepreneur when you don't have a 9 to 5 or dive all in, or,
Hmm.
like, and I think that that is a narrative that does a disservice to the people, because, like, you are supporting your family. And so, like, if you just dove all in, that would be a disservice to,
Hmm.
and so how can you use your 9 to 5 as like a really crucial building block to
Hmm.
being an entrepreneur and building your legacy?
Yeah. So I tell people all the time, my 9 to 5 is my angel investor of my business. So
Mm.
I use my 9 to 5 as a way, because before I started my business, the whole reason why I decided was because I didn't want to feel like I was capped at my income. Like, I work a corporate job, I have a salary, every year you'll get anywhere between 3 to 5%. Okay, great. But it allowed me to live a very comfortable life. But if I wanted to go travel for a month, ideally, would I be able to do that? And so I really wanted to figure out a way to bring in more money to where I could have the freedom that I wanted to travel and not have to worry about money, or to hire someone to help me clean my house, or to get a nanny, or things that we want as moms and women. We always want someone to help us out. I feel like
Yeah.
that was my driving force. I'm like, I want someone to come help me clean my house. And so I use my 9 to 5 as a way to help me build my business without the need, or not the need, but just being in that place where you really have to just accept anything. Because when you first,
Mhm.
I saw my mom as an entrepreneur when she just took the leap and quit her job, didn't have anything in savings. We were living off of government assistance, all of the things. And I was like, I never wanted to be an entrepreneur because I saw, it done that way.
Yeah.
But there's several people that talk about, before you decide to quit your job, there are certain things that you have to hit before it actually makes sense for you to quit your job. And so even with me and my podcast, like, I wanted to create a community where it's like, it's okay for you to have a 9 to 5 while you're building your business. Actually, it's very wise for you to do so, because
Right.
you're really able to have that time to build something, and to take your time and build it and figure it out and fail a couple times, and
Yeah.
not feel like you are, pressured to succeed out the gate. Because a lot of entrepreneurs will tell you, like, when you first start something, you pivot several times before you actually start to succeed. And so
Yeah.
even having a 9 to 5 as a cushion of what that you can lean on to take care of your household things, to live off on while you're building, while you're failing, while you're trying to succeed, is one of the wisest things that you can do as an entrepreneur.
Mhm. Yeah, because guess when you're not um present parent is when you're like, holy, how am I going to put food on the table? And you're
Mm-hmm.
so stressed about money, or you're taking in any sort of project, saying yes to whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And like that, it, and not that there isn't space for that,
Mm-hmm.
but there shouldn't be like that's the only way to do it, or like
Yes.
because I'm building it differently, I'm less than or whatever.
Exactly, exactly. And I did find myself in that place when I first started. People ask me, "Oh, do you do this full time?" And I'm like, "No, this is, my side thing." And they're just like, "Oh." And I will say it did feel like people didn't take me serious because I wasn't full-fledged into my business. But there are a lot of people that claim that they're full-time entrepreneurs that are broke, that are
Hmm.
stressed, that aren't making money, that are full in. But and so it's like, you can't focus on what other people are doing, especially on the internet. Like, you have to focus
Hmm.
on your goals. What is your reason of starting a business to begin with? And really just focus on you, focus on your grass, and focus on what you're trying to build.
Yeah. Yeah. So, one of the things that I struggled with when I had I was managing two Pilates studios as I was building this business. And it was like death by a thousand cuts,
Mm.
because it seemed like that job checked a lot of boxes. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
loved who I worked for. The owners were amazing. The people I worked with were great. I was in a health and wellness facility, so the like endorphins that were there were just so incredible. I really believed in the movement of Pilates. I
Mm-hmm.
saw transformation. I was able to get my daughter off the bus at 2 o'clock every day. Like, it
Mm-hmm.
checked all these boxes, but I would get her off the bus and then I would get a call like, "Yeah, we ran out of toilet paper." And I'm like, "Are I'm so what?" Or like, "The music system isn't working again." Or did it like it just was like
Yeah.
all of these tiny pulls on my energy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would sit down for like a power hour in my business, and either I would get interrupted or I would be so emotionally drained from like the minuscule issues that no matter
Mm-hmm.
what things I put in place, they wouldn't go away.
Yeah.
And so if someone is balancing their 9 to 5 with their business, like, what are things that you see that work for you, or boundaries you put in place, or things like that that really help support you and your the lifestyle?
Yeah, that's such a good question because when I first had the idea of starting my business, I was in a really, really toxic job environment. Like, there was no creative juices flowing because I was working like 10-hour days, 5 days a week. And it was just like, it just never ended. And I feel like it's important for one, whenever you are working and building a business, you want to get to a place where, or a job where you really can just shut it off at 5,
Mhm.
because that's important. It's not going to be easy for you to be able to build something if you don't have that boundary. And so I'm so blessed and so grateful to have my current job. I've been with my company for about 5 years now, and I would not change it for the world. I feel like it's the perfect opportunity for me to be able to build something. And so I, work from home. So I have that comfort of being able to, take a step away if I need to, or, like right now I'm on my lunch hour and my computer is on the left side and then I'm on my right side during my lunch. And then also, like, I have a very flexible PTO schedule. And so I think that you really need to find a place that allows you to shut work off at 5 o'clock. That's really going to be key. Because like I said before, within my toxic job experience before, like, I was at work till 7 o'clock in the evening. Now I have to go home. Now I have to get myself together for the next day, and then I have to go to sleep. So there's no time. There's literally no time to build a business. And so when you are in the place of, like, maybe you're considering going back to work, or maybe you're considering to find another job, you want to make sure that you find something that works with what you're trying to build.
Mhm. And I also at a lot of entrepreneurs that I work with, like, they are very fueled by like the passion that they find in what they're
Hmm.
doing. And it's okay if your 9 to 5 doesn't like fill you up with so much excitement.
Yeah.
Like, it can be just a job. But I think for a lot of like heart-centered, passion-driven people, they're like, "No, I have to care about what I'm doing or
Hmm.
else like I'm not going to do it well."
Yeah, that's real. Some people look for jobs to be fulfilled, and then some people, they just look for jobs to pay the bills. And
Yeah.
and I mean, if that's it, I guess it just boils down to you figuring out what you really care about.
Mhm.
The way that I landed in my current job was that I was actually on the track of becoming a physician. I was in pre-med. I was a pre-med student. I graduated with my bachelor's in biochemistry, and so I was looking for my big girl job. But
Mhm.
whenever you first get out of college, it's not as easy to jump into your industry. So I had to I had to kiss some frogs before I landed here, right? And so I got my first job out of college, and I was there for about a year and a half. It was extremely overwhelming. But then I ended up securing, this job with one of the number one pharmaceutical companies in the world. And I've been able to really just kind of have that flexibility. And even though, like, my passions have changed, because when I first got the job, I was still on that pre-med track. It wasn't until 2 years ago where I was like, oh, I can see myself being a full-time entrepreneur eventually. And so I just say, if you care about being at a place where you feel fulfilled during the daytime, then go for it. But if you're just like, I just need somewhere to, keep the lights on, and I can go to work in the morning, come home, cut work off at 5, and then focus on my business after, then that's not that either.
Yeah. Yeah. It goes back to remembering your why. Like, your
Yeah.
why is like, and I love that you frame it like, this is my angel investor.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're putting time into your angel investor, and because you see, the evolution of whether it's 12 months from now, 36 months, wherever it is down the road, that like you're going to be grateful that you did, kind of have something you could clock in and clock out. And like you said, there's tons of people out there who are going into a ton of debt, or
Mm-hmm.
they
Mm-hmm.
have backing from their family or
Yeah.
whatever. You don't know where their money's coming from. And a lot of it is a facade. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so originally you were talking, or earlier you were talking about how each day has a theme. Can you
Mm-hmm.
talk more about that?
Yeah. So I feel like I found, this secret spot where originally, when I first was, balancing the two, I felt like every day had to be the same. And obviously, we don't have the same energy levels every single day. Okay. And so I was able to identify like which days I'm most productive, which days I'm a little groggy, which days I'm not feeling like doing work at all. And so, based off of that, I've created my weekly schedule based off of themes. So, for instance, on Mondays is typically my days where I'm like slowly getting into the week. So I try to keep those days, very light with meetings, for both my corporate job and for my business. Now, Tuesdays to Thursdays are like my peak. Like I'm feeling all of the energy. Like I'm ready to be productive. I'm ready to knock things out. And so those are typically the days where I will schedule like most of my calls or podcast episodes, recordings, or even, interviews, coffee chats. All of those things are typically on Tuesdays to Thursdays. Now, Fridays, I kind of like my Fridays to be very chill because I have half days on Fridays with my corporate job. And so sometimes I like to, treat myself, to go to happy hour, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe I just want to go get a massage, or maybe I just want to lay around on my couch while my kid is still at school. So I try to keep my Fridays open. And I don't really claim it as a theme on Friday because I like to just go with the wind. If I can, schedule something on Friday, cool. If I need to catch up on something or reschedule something, then I'll most likely do it on Friday. And then, my Saturdays are typically my days where I work with clients. I will, shoot content with them. And yeah, Sundays are my Sabbath. I do absolutely nothing on Sundays. I go to church with my family. And after that, you can catch me on the couch from 2 o'clock until it's time to go to bed. So
Good for you. Good for you. And so I'm sure that you've had an evolution in the conversation you've had in your own brain of being like, it's okay to have a slow Monday, or it's okay to take Friday off. Because I'm sure there was times where you're like, well, if I just catch up on my email, or if I just make more inquiries, or if I just sell more,
mhm.
that. So what do those conversations look like in your head now compared to where they used to be?
I feel like at the beginning, when you're first starting, you're just wanting to like accept anything and basically be in that like people pleaser mode. And, after I've experienced burnout several times, like that's what forced me to have these conversations and be like, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was talking about, I think I was talking about this on my stories a couple weeks ago, but I was actually serving in my church, and that's kind of what started me to build my business because my church was going through COVID like everyone else, and we were needing, unique ways to market online.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started shooting content for my church, and then people were like, "Oh, you do this? Why don't you help me with my business?" And so that kind of just opened the door. But with that, with me taking that ministry under my wing and like making it my baby, like I was running crazy 7 days a week for weeks at a time without any days off. And so I really found myself hitting a burnout last year. And I was like, okay, I cannot continue to go at this pace. Like, I am not a machine. I need a day off.
Yeah.
And so it just allowed me to be like, it's okay if I can't, accept a client. And I remember that, one time I was like, well, if I don't take this client on this day, then they're not going to work with me. Typically, if you are really good at what you do, they will figure it out. They will
Mm-hmm.
figure it out and everyone will be okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
so anytime that you find yourself like in that place where you're like, oh, like I, feel bad for doing this, don't feel bad because we definitely need time to reset. Even as women, like we need more hours of sleep and rest than men. And so you can't be guilty or feel guilty when you need to take those times or when you need to block off that schedule because it's going to allow you to be able to show up at 100%
Mm-hmm.
rather than, trying to make it on 10%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. That's so good. It's so good. And it sounds like you have exercised the muscle and are good at using your asking for help muscle.
Oh, for sure. 1000%. 1,000,000,000%. So my parents don't live here in Houston. And my husband's parents don't live here in Houston either. My mom just actually moved to Dallas, and my husband's family lives in Louisiana. And so we don't have, any family here that we can rely on. So literally just yesterday, I hired a nanny to help me in the evenings for when my husband is away from work.
Mm.
And last year version of me would have been like cringing at that, right?
Yeah.
But I'm able to realize like I cannot be everywhere at once. Like I'm only one person. And so I am so much better of an entrepreneur, of a mom, of a wife when I can ask for help. Like even my husband, I gave him the grocery list and I'm like, hey, we need to have all these items in the house. So if there's stuff that we already have, don't buy it. But if we don't, buy it. And
Right.
so even him going to the grocery store and like getting, the things that we need for the week was a tremendous help.
Hmm.
But before last year, I was like the woman that's like, I have to do everything. I have to touch everything. And it's like, no, ask for help, sis.
Yeah. 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 Yes. Yeah. The power of community is amazing, and just letting go of that kind of control is
Mm-hmm.
not easy, but a muscle that's worth using for sure.
Yes, 1000%.
Yeah.
And really the successful version of you is going to be so grateful that you did,
Mm.
because like I said, when you have a family, when you have kids, when you have multiple kids, when you have a job, like imagine like all of these pieces being eaten at you every single day. And then if you're
Hmm.
not getting a full 6 to 8 hours of sleep, like how are you functioning?
I know. I know. We're like in lacrosse season right now, and so it's just like our evenings and weekends are crazy. Like last weekend we had uh 8 games
Oh
between
my
Friday and
goodness.
Saturday. This weekend we have 9, 10 games between Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it's just like insane. And so I'm like, have just been in such a place of like grace of like, okay, do I need to vacuum? Yes. But like, do I need to rest? More, yes. Like higher
Exactly.
priority, yes. So
Exactly. 1000%.
yeah. Awesome. I could talk about this with you forever, but we are running up on time. So, Carly, are you ready for the lightning round questions?
I am. Let's do
Awesome.
it.
What is a must read book?
Oh, so I just started reading this book by Morgan Devon. It's called Rewrite Your Rules. It's phenomenal. I'm
Mm.
only on chapter 6, but like even just implying the things that she was talking about in the book about business,
Hmm.
I've already seen so much changes in my business. So yeah.
Ooh, I like that a lot. What does creativity mean to you?
Oh, that's a tough one. Creativity, I think creativity means just being boldly you and not feeling like you have to fit the mold.
Yeah. I was thinking about that so much, and this is off topic of the lightning round question, but when you were talking about how like you're really productive until like 2 a.m., and my sister is like that, like her peak productivity hours for her creative projects is like 10 p.m. to 2 a.m.
Yes.
And my daughter is similar. And it's so hard for me because I'm like, you have to be up so early for school. So you have to go to bed. And this is when you need to get your creative energy out. And so I'm trying to like hold both of those. And it's just,
Yes.
it's not easy, but like parenting is just, continually learning. And so that's one of the lessons I'm currently
1000%.
learning. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Oh, do it scared. I think that
Ooh.
is my biggest piece of advice with especially with entrepreneurship. Like we never know what's going to work. And even
Mm-hmm.
when you're scared to do things, most of the time that means that you should do it. So, even if you're
Yeah.
scared, just go in and hone in on that fear and just do it.
Yep. Yeah, my favorite word is tear-sighted. If you're terrified and excited about something, that's the direction you should go.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah. What is something that is on your bucket list?
Ooh, I have lots of things. So I want to go to Europe.
Hmm.
And I think that I like whenever I do finally go, I would love to be there for like 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I haven't been to Europe since pre-COVID. I think it was 2018 the last time I went, and I definitely have the Europe bug for
Yes,
sure.
yes. And I've never been out the country like that far away from home. So I'm like, okay, I think I'm ready. Like,
Yeah. Yep. What is the coolest thing you've done in the last year or are currently working on?
oh, okay.
Little humble brag in here.
Yeah. So I'm actually in the process of developing a app.
Oh my gosh. How cool.
Yes, yes. So this will be the first time that I've ever even said that out loud. But
Wow.
I'm basically creating a platform that is going to connect entrepreneurs with content creators all across the world. So, yeah, I've hired my dev team, and we're kicking cheers. So yeah.
Wow. That's so cool. Oh my gosh. You'll have to like keep us in the loop of what's going on with that.
Yes, yes.
Awesome. Well, Carly, where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on all socials at Carli Dorlin. I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok, kinda sorta, and I'm also on Threads. I spend a lot of time on Threads, so you can find me
Hmm.
on there. And then if you are in the Houston area and need someone to help you with creating your content for social media, you can follow me at cd.creativeco.
Perfect. Awesome. This was so much fun. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.